So with regards to the topic on resource efficiency, we'll have our expert, Mr. Kalyan, Mr. Ganesh. So, Mr. Ganesh, are you here?
Yes, I'm online. Thank you, Thierry.
Good morning. So you're from India, and I will let you share your screen for your presentation. Maybe you can just present yourself to the whole team present here today.
Okay, thank you, Thierry. Have you allowed me to share my screen?
Okay, you may now share your screen.
Okay, you're able to see this?
Yes. Yes, we can now see your screen. You can start playing in full screen.
You're getting my full screen now?
Not yet. You can click on slideshow. Yes, now it's okay. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Let me get started. First of all, let me share my greetings from India to all of you. I see a good number of participants in this session, and thank you for joining. We have 30 minutes, around 30 minutes, so I would like to make use of it right away. And the topic that we are going to cover is resource efficiency. But underneath the topic that we are going to discuss, it's all about young minds in schools and colleges and building the innovation spirit in each one of you. I understand that those participating in this session on 11th and 12th of May are actually the facilitators, the enablers for all these innovations to happen. It's a very challenging assignment for all of you, and I congratulate you on taking up this challenge. And I would like to take you through some interesting ideas about the topic called resource efficiency. And we hope to see a number of projects appearing in the competition in this theme. I was told that there are close to 7 topics, a wide range of topics, starting with health, safety and well-being, social integration and education, food security, marine life conservation, artificial intelligence or coding or programming, environmental hazards, and of course, resource efficiency. My purpose is obviously to take you through the nuances of what is resource efficiency and quickly bring you all up to speed on what could be the great possibilities of innovating in this area. But everybody knows what is resource efficiency, but it's also important to understand it in very clear terms and also to learn to appreciate why is it important. And also, why is it important for the young minds to start focusing on? This is not just a topic for specialists. It's not just a topic for large organizations, manufacturing houses, industries, or service providers, but it's also something that all of us are grappling with at our own home level, at our residences. So let me take you through a very simple, logical way of understanding what we call productivity. It's a systems view of productivity is nothing but inputs are converted into outputs. And a lot of things happens in between, irrespective of what you're doing. You might be running an educational institution, you might be running a supermarket, it could be a beach resort in Mauritius, or it could be a small factory producing sugar, or it could be a food processing enterprise, or it could be a service provider like your public transport corporation. All of them use as inputs to convert them into outputs. And what happens in between is an element of value addition. The value addition whatever happens between the input and output is known as the process. Now we have to understand that for any activity, business or industrial activity, you need a lot of inputs, starting with the land on which your building is sitting, the talent of the people you have employed, the capital you have deployed for engaging in all your expenses, the facilities, the energy, the utilities that you are engaged with, raw materials, tools and equipment, labor. The information and time which got added as a very valuable input is the need of the hour today. Today, nothing runs without information, and time is a great resource. And all of these are converted into goods and services, which leads to satisfied customers, and it also brings revenue to your government by way of tax. Now, if the process is not efficient and it is not efficiently using the inputs, it's going to result in excessive waste. Some of them could be recyclable, but not all of them. Not all of them are renewable. They end up as real waste and effluents into the environment, or scrap which cannot be used or can be used. And waste, when you talk about waste, it could be obvious or the unobvious. Okay, so it's what is happening in the industry. And if you try to understand this input and output in a smaller context of your own schools and colleges, you can relate it to what could be the inputs for your schools and colleges or your homes, and what are the outputs that you are generating. So resource efficiency is all about using the inputs efficiently, be it material, be it land, people talent, or information, or whatever it is. How efficiently I can use it. That's the question here. Obviously, the best way to improve resource efficiency is lower the inputs and maximize your output, but that's not done very easily. There is something which comes in the way, which is called technology and the method you're following, which could be limitations. The know-how could also be a limitation, the knowledge. So lower levels of input is a very great way to improve resource efficiency, reduced waste and emissions. But all of these is done with a primary objective, reducing the cost for the producers and customers. But what is interesting is this according to me, the resource efficiency, according to me, is a great topic for innovation, because it's so common and everyone is affected by this, that everybody can have an idea on it, and it stimulates innovation. And end of the day, you're contributing to the creation of new industries and bringing greater economic competitiveness to your own country. So that's extremely important. So resource efficiency is a common theme, and I'll try to make it as simple as possible as we progress in the conversation. And we are trying to see that if you take a topic like resource efficiency to innovate, according to the procedure that Thierry explained just now, over the next 12 weeks, you will be able to stimulate a huge amount of innovative ideas for the creation of thoughts that will be applicable and implementable by a great cross-section of people. Now, I did mention that it is not only profits by lesser cost to the industry, but it also directly impacts on the global ecosystem. Everything becomes sustainable. I think you would have all heard this term sustainability in the context of our industry, hospitality, tourism. What is sustainable tourism? What is sustainable production, sustainable productivity? It simply means that can we continue to do what we are doing for more periods of time? It's as simple as that. For example, power production predominantly happens with coal. Now, how long can you be producing power, electric power, by burning coal? There is only so much coal left in our Earth's soil, right? This is a major concern in India. So how sustainable is power production with the use of coal? That's sustainability. Similarly, I know Mauritius is a small island, and you're lucky that you don't have a huge population. But if I just imagine Mauritius Island is as populated as India, it is, just take the Indian population density into Mauritius, and I populate your island with the same number of people in India for the similar square miles of area, I can immediately imagine that we will run into water shortages. So it will not be sustainable at all unless we focus on reducing a very valuable water resource and use it very intelligently. Okay, today you are possibly blessed with a good water research organization, but obviously you're dependent on rains and cyclones, etc. Imagine that you run out of water, and where will you get your water from? There is no nearby land mass from where you could borrow. If you look at Singapore, which is also an island nation, more or less similar in size and population like Mauritius, they have the advantage of Malaysia being very close by, and until recently they have been buying potable water from Malaysia. But now they have become self-sustainable. And if you happen to search in Google and understand how they became sustainable in water, there are amazing stories, innovative stories that you could hear about how Singapore became water sustainable. So energy efficiency is all about leading to greater and greater sustainability. And I want to leave this thought with you, because when you talk to your students, the young minds, about what is the right project to choose in InnovEd, it is important to understand the strategy behind the whole process. I'll talk about this some more. But what is important to understand here is that whatever little things we do by way of innovation, using the process that Thierry explained, Innovation Club, forming a team, brainstorming, coming to solutions, it'll all have a significant impact on the national economy, sustainability in Mauritius, and also on the world economy. Keep that in mind. So what we are trying to do here is not a small game for a competition. It's going to have far-reaching contributions. Obviously, innovation is not going to happen without creative thinking. In this slide, I'm just trying to explain what creative thinking is. It's all about an inventive endeavor. It's about discovering new things, and it is about building creative skills like problem solving, communication, and innovation. It is not about doing things that you are good at doing better. For example, someone is good in painting, someone is good in mathematics, someone is very good in programming. Creative thinking is not about doing these things better, but it's all about directing that skill towards creative problem solving, creative communication, and coming up with innovative ideas. I think there will be a lot of creative thinking that will be happening behind what's going to happen because of all of you. And the students are going to really employ this very central feature of the process, namely creative thinking. Now, the important thing to recognize is that schools have started to facilitate exploration of the young minds. They are the smartest that we can think of. Someone like me who had more or less completed his career life, professional life, have nothing much to add by way of creative thinking. But the young minds have an open atmosphere, have a lot of things to come up with very fresh ideas. They're not constrained with the burdens of the knowledge that they possess. Sometimes the lack of full knowledge enables them to think laterally and create more innovative thought processes. Now, what is listed in this slide is what is happening in schools today across the world. I have seen some of this happening in Indian schools as I had gone to, for different purposes, to talk to educationists as part of my 5S audits of industries. I visited a number of schools sponsored by the industries, and what you listed here happens today. And I'm sure most of this will also be happening in the educational institutions in Mauritius. What are they? You have virtual reality used in education. Students are encouraged to try out virtual reality and learn new things in the process. Machine learning and artificial intelligence, cloud computing. Today in schools, people have a very good idea of what is cloud computing, what are the principles behind it, and how the same principles can be used for education improvement. 3D printing, I'm seeing a 3D printer in almost most of the reasonably well-to-do schools, and it is part of the workshop practices in many schools that I've come across. How to use social media in education and for profit in the educational institutions is a huge area in which teachers are working on. And of course, the use of biometrics and the multiple applications to which it is put within the school and learning environment. Now, what is all that enabling is all of these are helping in making students think in a very different way. In a laterally different direction, people are able to think, something that we elders cannot do. So I just wanted to highlight this. And if you are able to exploit all these technologies that are today available at your hand's reach, it is so very easy to establish creative thinking in young minds. Now, there are some simple thought process in resource efficiency that you should ask your people to explore. They are all used to a lot of electrical equipment, mechanical equipments that we use in our daily life. How can we use them more efficiently? This could be a challenge question to them. The many equipments we use, how can we use them more efficiently, make them run for less time, make them consume less energy, etc., etc. Then they are exposed to technology today with the help of the smartphone. They have access to information in a big way because of Google and other search engines. So what technology and new ways of working will reduce human efforts? How can we reduce the workload on the human beings and divert the strengths and time of the people to more value-added tasks? This could be another way to ask a question and make them explore for new ideas and innovation. Obviously, the most expensive and non-sustainable resource that we use day in and day out is electric power, cooking gas, petrol, and water. What seems available in surplus quantity today is not going to be the same few years from now. So you should provoke lateral thinking on how can we reduce the spends on electricity, cooking gas, petrol, and water. The most important thing, the land. How can we use precious land better? There'll be a lot of open spaces around your school, open spaces that everybody looks at. How can we use it better? I will give some ideas later, but that's a very important question to ask. Lastly, we all know that information is money, time is money. The more we know, the more confident we are in facing our life's challenges. Similarly, time we have realized is money. How can we innovatively leverage these for human good? I just have listed about 5 questions that you could use, but of course you have to use it in a much more simpler way to students. Ask these questions in a very simple way, so the thought process of creative thinking is triggered. Now, what is important is how do we innovate for better efficiencies? While talking about this question, I would like to share some experiences of an organization that I've worked with, namely IBM. And I'd like to share some approaches that we often do once in 5 years as a corporation, and some of this may be of interest to the facilitators here. There is a 5-step process involved in innovation. Okay, we all know that innovation is no more a private idea of an individual. He keeps it to himself because it's a competitive world. He goes and implements. You hardly get a few innovative ideas if you are very privatized in that manner. That's why we need a club. That's why we need a team to work with, how people came together to build an innovative idea. So there are 5 steps involved here. It's no more individual excellence, it's teamwork. And therefore, the very first step is to identify a breakthrough opportunity. By asking those few questions and the other questions that you will add on to that, you could get a lot of breakthrough opportunities. You'll be able to identify a lot of opportunities in the resource efficiency sphere. Okay, if you will know what the major problem is and what is an opportunity to go and solve that problem. It's important to do the groundwork. Now, that means that you collect as much data as possible. Suppose you want to prevent leakages in water taps as a problem, and you see that as a breakthrough opportunity, you must collect data on what amount of water you are losing, how many taps are leaking, how often taps become defective that it starts to leak, what are the contributing factors to water leakages that we can resolve. Is it the nature of the tap? Is it the pressure of the water? Is it the way it is used by people carelessly? So do the groundwork so that the innovation will be very aligned to the actual root causes of the problem. Third step is important, is about eliciting ideas. So please remember, ideas have to be elicited. People will come up with ideas. It's the simple process of brainstorming can be used. And then it's important also to allow for time for reflection and percolation of the idea. It's very easy to say this idea is trivial, we are not going to use it, but if you allow the idea to reflect and percolate, you will probably see that you can get another idea out of it, which is better than the idea that you're looking at. One idea always triggers another. And finally, you select and start acting. It's very important. You can see that 20% of the time it's not thinking, but acting. Okay, so a good idea is a good idea only if it starts to work. Outstanding innovators, the statement at the bottom of this page says, outstanding innovators challenge conventional thinking and focus on the possibilities. I will also talk about this mindset which comes in the way of innovating. So it's important to break conventional thinking. The more complex the problem, better will be the innovation and the robustness of the solution. Please remember that. Don't shy away from complex problems, imagining that it will be beyond the scope of young people. It is often not the case. For more complex the problem, I've seen better solutions coming. I'll give you some examples of how, and these are all ideas that have come from very young people, 16 years and below. Adding additional bulb in a torchlight. Now, why do you need that? Actually, by putting two bulbs in parallel, you use the battery more efficiently and the life of the battery enhances. And by orienting the bulb in a different direction, you're able to see as you walk, you're able to see the floor as well as you're able to see the object on which the torchlight is poised. Just imagine a simple solution helping the torchlight user to get better visibility. Similarly, to reduce the amount of water that is flushed out from a toilet, you just put a water-filled bottle with a cap tightly closed inside the toilet flush. If it's a 2-liter bottle, 2 liters of water is saved every time you flush. A very simple, zero-cost solution. By adding a food color into the water, you will see that if the water is leaking in the sink, you will be able to spot it because of the color. It's a very simple, elementary test that you learn from parallel thinking. You can also reduce AC unit consumption to understand what the AC unit is consuming by attaching a clamp meter. And this was an idea that is used. I found it in a school. By simply setting the temperature of the thermostat by 1 degree in the air conditioner in the hotels, every air conditioner, you save 6% of electrical energy. And if it's a 100-room hotel, you save about 60%. 6 into 100. So it's an extremely simple thing, and that can be given as a task to the housekeeping people. The last idea, I have visibly seen that in a school at the village level, where they simply worked out a better landscaping of the land around the school building, so that rainwater falling on it gets gathered within the boundaries of the school. It doesn't flow out. It was flowing out into the neighboring plot. So better landscaping actually led to better gardening and the water stayed within. So these are simple things, but also remember that innovative ideas need not always be product related. You don't have to design a new product all the time. You just have to see that new ways of working, new ways of methodology also helps in improvements. So the areas I would recommend you must focus on against resource efficiency are electricity and water consumption. I'm not bringing everything into picture, like you also try to save gas and petrol, but focus on 1 or 2. Of course, you can add gas and petrol as well, but I'm looking at electricity and water as a major advantage, which can be uniformly implemented, not only in schools, but also outside the schools. Food waste is a major problem everywhere in the world. Avoidance of food waste leads to a whole range of energy efficiencies, and you will be able to relate. For example, if cooked food is wasted, you know that it has a lot of energy has been used to cook the food, and that is saved if you reduce the volume of food cooked as well as reduce the waste. How can we reduce transportation? Because working online has become so popular and accepted by the people, thanks to the pandemic. So what are all the productive work we could accomplish online, which will not require us to travel? Today, 90% of the things I was doing 10 years ago, I'm doing online. And I'm not that technologically savvy, but today people are technically savvy, and you could see how you could reduce mobility, reduce transportation costs and fuel bills by doing more productive work online. The picture on the right shows how human effort is reduced simply by designing the ceiling fans with foldable blades. You just see that, very simple, that at an angle it gets folded down. It's so easy to clean the top of the blade, and it reduces considerably the human efforts. Now, this is a very simple example of innovative solution that brings human effort better utilized. Similarly, being schools, you must be able to talk about knowledge delivery improvements. Okay, the important thing I want to talk about is how do we build and operate on your idea model, and also talk about your idea club that was mentioned. There are many things mentioned here. I'll just talk about a few of them. As I mentioned, strategize your approach, provide the market orientation to the students. Tell them what to focus on. What are the major problems? Expose them to the problem. Take them to the site and let them understand what is happening. And they will understand the problem better. So provide the market orientation. And this is what each facilitator has to note. Build your case for change around innovation. That means the way things are being done today is no more the way it's going to be done if you want to improve resource efficiency. So the case is built for making changes. Also, it promotes acceptability of the idea when it is made. Establish some boundaries. It's always important to think radically differently, but again, don't think extremely in directions that your ideas goes for a toss. So innovation boundaries have to be set. And I think in InnovEd, NPCC and your Ministry of Education has very clearly outlined the themes and topics. So this year, we are going to focus on these boundaries. So that's a very important thing. And within the boundaries given to you, I'm sure you will be able to think of more finer boundaries to create creative thinking in your students. Handling the risk aversion, it's very important. Everybody thinks, I won't do this, I won't make this change, I won't think in this direction because there is a lot of risk. What is the risk? People won't accept the change. It will be very difficult to implement. The idea is good, but it requires technology to do it. People won't accept it, things like that. Okay. Nobody would have thought of a two-door refrigerator 10 years ago, right? One door for the freezer, one door for the normal cooling operations. It was all one door, and every time you open, a lot of energy is wasted. The cooling efficiency goes down. So two-door refrigerator, in my mind, is a great advantage. And now there are temperature-controlled home refrigerators have come. And all of these are because of risk aversion. They are handled very well. They thought an idea will be accepted by people, the risks can be overcome, and let's go and do it. And that is something that you have to put in the minds of your innovators. If you have to train people, if you have to orient them in a particular way to create innovative capacities, please do that. I think this is an important role the facilitator has to play. There are a lot of good practices you can access to in the net on innovation. Follow those good practices. Building the idea culture as a cultural change in the organization, encouraging people to come up with suggestions. These are also there. And obviously, you have to motivate them. The recognition, the reward, all that is very, very important. So I would urge the innovative facilitators in this class to be able to use one or more of all of these effectively in your journey forward. I will conclude by talking about something called an innovation jam, which is what we in IBM in those days used to do. Once in 5 years, we used to have what we call an innovation jam. After successfully doing it for 3 successive 5 years, we had opened it as a service to industries. And what does it do? An innovation jam is an open and transparent enterprise-wide online conversation that takes place typically over a few days to discuss your strategic objectives. The focus of an innovation jam activity is centered on obtaining feedback and doing a light touch but mass scale outreach. I'll explain this to you in a simple manner. We have 300,000 employees across the world, spread across 160 countries. IBM is a very big company, $100 billion revenue. We have an intranet in which something called, similar to Twitter, you all use Twitter, so you know what Twitter is. a website is opened on which the strategic themes in which we are looking for ideas is displayed. I'll give you an example of smart traffic signals. It was something we did about 15 years ago when I was in IBM. How do we develop software and products for designing a smart traffic signal? Obviously, a smart traffic signal is something that will have intelligence built into it, that it will automatically adjust the duration of green light and red light depending on the traffic it watches in front of it. So it allows traffic to move very fast without human intervention. So IBM wanted ideas around that. So the theme was improve traffic flow. And someone came up with an idea of a smart traffic signal. You got the point? So the theme is improving traffic flow in urban cities where heavy traffic congestion is a major problem. And the idea came out like smart traffic signals. Now somebody puts an idea like smart traffic signal and he explains what he has in his mind in the website. Immediately 30 people catch upon it. You know, everybody across the world, all employees are reading the ideas coming up. And when somebody sees this idea of smart traffic signal, their brain cell starts to work extra hours and they come up with additional ideas on that. How it works, how it can be made to work. You got the point? That's called an innovation jam. And that is how IBM creates its products, creates its solutions for its customers. And at the end of a 2-week period, when the innovation jam happens, we actually end up with generating close to 1 million ideas. You can imagine that in 12 days, 1 million ideas from 300,000 employees, all of them economically viable, technically viable, and IBM Research will take it from there and go and build the products and solutions. Okay, so it's so very interesting. And I think the Idea Club that NPCC just now explained to you will work on similar lines. And as facilitators, please use Twitter, please use Facebook, etc., for doing your own little innovation jams. That simply means also to stress the point that you are not going to innovate in isolation. Sitting at home, each individual is not going to innovate. You are really going to innovate as a team. Even if it's a 20-member team.
So Ganesh, sorry, we had some connection issues on our end. You may proceed, please.
I have just concluded. When did I lose?
So thank you for your presentation. So indeed, resource efficiency is very important, and we must know how to use them efficiently to avoid waste, and also find innovative ways to be sustainable in the long run. So once again, thank you for your presentation. And I don't know if we have any questions from our participants. So please, if you have any questions you want to ask to the experts.